And people like candid stuff anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. And people know that those boots give you like, they're lifted, so we're actually the same height. So my question.
Oh, you have a question?
Yes, I have a question. Like, let's say this straight arm bar here, okay? You could just press down.
Not really.
You could.
Do it.
You break right there.
I can push back on you. Do it again. Like, really try to make it go down. Don't hit it, but leverage it down as if you were trying to do an arm bar. Doesn't work, does it? Doesn't work, right?
What if I roll? It's a little easier.
You should roll, but there's more to it than that.
I'm just going to turn into red number 2 in this video, man. They're going to know I bought this black belt on Amazon.
So, but you brought up a good point. Why doesn't that work? I mean, you can't just leverage someone down with an arm bar. It's arm bars.
I guess what I would say is that if you can get yourself in a position where they're already lowered, all you have to do is just press down and then they go down. But for example, like the way you teach white belt number 1, it's very like this intentional like circle and go down.
But you know why we do that?
Well, to teach principles of movement. Mm-hmm. But what I'm saying is that I would say like not in a situation where we're standing up, but let's say I already have like an underhook like this and you're already down.
Okay, I'm already quote
If you're already down, a lot of times all you do is you just press down.
Yeah, once they're already down.
Yes. So is the technique why not teach the technique where they just get them to a position where you just press down? And then I see that even sometimes in other Hapkido videos, even when they do like Sonmokso number 1, they pretty much just go like this, and then the guy just, they'll just like press down once they have the arm here.
Yeah.
But you do it in a much more circular way to teach principles.
Yeah, so I don't think it really works if you just press it down. I think that's an example of them just kind of going with it. Now, if you go bang, or if you get someone down and you go bang, it's going to hurt and they might go. Sure. But here, I'll do it too. I'll push you down. I'm really trying to push you. And you can push me right backward into the gong, see? So if you just apply pressure to an armbar, and arm bars work, but that wouldn't work. And that's why you need Aiki. That's the difference between a plain technique and an Aiki Jiu-Jitsu technique. To do it with Aiki, I don't push down. Because if I push down, you push up. Yeah, exactly. I push up, and then you go down. That's what makes it Aiki, is I do the opposite. And I follow these principles, which is circular movement, not direct, that you can just oppose. Play with your balance. It's like you and I are arm wrestling on a boat. Like we're sitting at a table on a boat, and we're arm wrestling. I'm pushing you down, and you're pushing me back. And while we're locked in this struggle, a wave comes. So then it doesn't matter that you and I are arm wrestling because the whole boat is turning over. And that's what makes it Aiki rather than just Jiu-Jitsu.
Okay, but just Jiu-Jitsu techniques work too, correct? Or do they all need to have an Aiki principle to work?
So Aiki Jiu-Jitsu is not different than Jiu-Jitsu. It's the culmination of Jiu-Jitsu. So Jiu already means soft. It's the gentle art, right? Jiu-Jitsu. So it's wrestling. It's Japan's wrestling to compare with all the different wrestling cultures of the world which exist. The better you get at wrestling, the less effort it takes in all wrestling systems. Even sumo, which is the biggest, strongest guys, the best sumo wrestlers aren't necessarily the biggest guys. They're the ones who have the most technique that can give and send the guys out of the ring. So it's understood that you want to arrive at that fluidity, at those ways to unbalance the opponent, at those ways to overcome their simple resistance in the course of training your wrestling. When you finally reach it, the study of those principles are called Aiki Jiu-Jitsu. So Aiki Jiu-Jitsu is not something different than Jiu-Jitsu. It is the perfection of Jiu-Jitsu.
Like in our curriculum with Hapkido, there's certain techniques that are, when someone grabs you here, this is a recommended go-to move you can do. For example, like you have a bear hug, right, in the green belt?
Yeah.
So stepping out in an ankle pick, boom.
Sure.
One there, or something like this, pressing down, breaking the grip, and then getting an arm bar here.
Yeah.
But then we have other ones, like off the wrist grab, number 2, white belt, where you add that twist, and it's a little bit more of a complicated technique.
True.
That's something for me, black belt, it's hard,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
So that technique, for example, and you mentioned this too in a lot of your posts and videos, that it's not that right when you grab me here, this is the go-to, right? This is teaching a principle.
Yeah,
while
we could be anywhere. We could.
Yeah, well, there's other techniques that are more of a go-to.
Okay.
Can you kind of clarify why is that? Why is it sprinkled in that some are just to teach a principle, while others are, this is something that you could actually do as an option?
All right. So you're referring to the fact that in our curricula, which are distributed by belt, for example, 10 at white belt, 20 at brown belt, etc., that some of them are just self-defense scenarios, and some of them are drills or exercises to teach a principle of movement, right? The way the curriculum is laid out is the first priority is teaching. So all of them are principles, even the things that are seemingly just go-tos, like like a thumb lock. You would think like, oh, that's just a self-defense go-to, and in that situation, I suppose it can work. But it's also taught to you as part of a number of principles of understanding just how the body works, what hurts and what doesn't, and like even the more complicated quote-unquote Aiki ones, that simple lock is meant to show you what hurts on the body, and you can find it in many different situations. I would say it's just that some are easier to apply right off the bat, whereas others need to be understood in the context of broader fighting. Again, the reason these white belt ones are just a single wrist grab is not because this is a common self-defense scenario. It's because one point of contact is easier to handle than many points of contact. So its basic training is like, let's learn our spelling and arithmetic versus let's learn our calculus, where it's like all multiple variables and multiple vectors. So it's simplicity versus complexity. It's not reality versus principles.
Do you think it's important that with those techniques that are more focused on Aiki, so it's a higher level of difficulty, teaching them so early on, someone might say like, why so early on are you teaching a technique that someone would definitely not apply? And it's like, well, when you teach the students, is a Hapkido instructor saying, hey, for this one specifically, this is more something that, in our white belt, we have just Osotogari, like in the thing, we point our finger up. Our hip tosses, those are more like, yes, you need technique for them, but it's a completely different layer of technique for other moves.
I know.
So if you just kind of like teach a white belt that, is there an importance of so early on they do that? Or would it be like better earlier on to teach them go-tos, and then as they get better and better, well, let's play with this. It's not about, that's even in striking. People will play around with different angles and stuff. Not that you'd want a beginner to like ever really play with this. It's just more. So what is your thought on that idea?
Well, the way you put it, especially comparing it to striking, there's some Taekwondo schools, for example, where they won't even introduce a tornado kick to you, or a spin kick even, until you're almost a black belt. Whereas we always introduced that right away at white belt, right? Like we had hook kicks, spin kicks. We did tornado kicks at orange belt, and others wouldn't do that right away. And the rationale for that is familiarize you with it early so that the perfection of it can happen sooner, rather than introduce it later and then it's something new to you that maybe you never get as good at it as you could. As far as your question about the Aiki-ish techniques, like the 5 classic Aikido, Ikkyo, Nikkyo, Sankyo, Shihonage, etc., Kotegaeshi, why are those introduced early? Well, historically, as I understand it, those weren't introduced early. You would study Jiu-Jitsu, or as it became, Judo. And then, for example, Jigoro Kano sent his best black belts to learn Aiki Jiu-Jitsu because he felt that that was something that could broaden their training. So they were already accomplished black belts in his style of Judo, which is Jiu-Jitsu. And he sent them to his friend Takeda to learn Aiki. In the Korean tradition, it just so happens that Aiki came over, and the Koreans already had Judo and Jiu-Jitsu because they were occupied by Japan. When Aiki Jiu-Jitsu came over in the 40s or 50s with Sool, it was novel. It was fresh, and the Koreans hadn't seen it before. So when he started teaching it, and it started at the white belt, he was ostensibly teaching advanced skills to quote-unquote beginners, even though in Japan it wouldn't have happened that way, as I understand it. But given that that is the case, we have these advanced, very difficult movements that people struggle with, introduced right away at white belt in Hapkido. But then again, with all the other techniques too, the common judo throws, the common jiu-jitsu locks and wrestling takedowns and so forth. It's the same idea as why we introduced spin kicks early. You are familiarized with it early so that you can start the long process of becoming familiar with it and hopefully have a prayer of learning it before you die, rather than have it be introduced later and you really won't have a prayer of learning it. These techniques, as you've seen, they're difficult to do, like the S-lock. Like, hit me with an S-lock.
Oh, me too?
Hit me with an S-lock, yeah. Yeah, so there we go. We pressure tested it, and it's bullshito. Right?
It's bullshito,
It
yes.
definitely doesn't work.
Yes, sensei.
So that's ostensibly supposed to be a self-defense move that you can use in fighting, and yet you've been training, you're a black belt, and it still doesn't work. So what good is that, right? Well, it's a good thing you learned other stuff too, because that wasn't all you learned. So you do have something to make you a fighter in the meantime. Why doesn't that work yet? Well, it's the long-term goal. That requires sensitivity, precision, focus, all the things which you, if you struggle to gain them, will not only grant you access to that technique, but it'll make every other technique you do better. Because it's a matter of honing your precision, your sensitivity, all of which is of value to a grappler. Make your sensitivity more precise. Turn this way and move it this way. Roll this way. And with your dantian, roll into me. So twist this like you're wringing a towel, hit it as hard as you can, and then roll your dantian toward me. With your whole, not just your shoulders, your whole body, roll your dantian to me. And press to as well as twist. So it's press, twist. There's a simultaneous press and twist. So it rolls in and out. So here I have this lock, right? I also have to think that this point of contact I have on your hand, I'm not only locking this wrist joint. If I were only doing that, that hurts, right? And I'm sure you don't want me to keep doing it, but you can hit me with that. I'm not controlling your body. I have to control your body. So I need to think and feel with my whole being. The lock here, the lock here, the lock here, the lock even in your sternum, the lock on your hip, the lock on your right knee, and the lock on your foot. And when I move this, I want to feel that I'm moving your foot. See? Yeah, it's also precision. Like, it doesn't require too much strength here. What it requires is alignment. Like, this isn't I'm not grabbing you very hard, am I?
No.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter because it's the alignment I'm looking for.
So get that tension.
Yep.
Yeah.
I need you to be tense, not me. And that's just a matter of feeling exactly the minutes and degrees that line it up.
Yeah, right there, I feel it.
And that's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. I can feel the exact moment when it starts to flex right here on my shoulder. That's when it's all locked.
Yeah, and that's just your shoulder. If I do this, you'll have a reaction, but I need your hip too. There,
Yeah.
now I have the hip.
Yeah.
And this will bring you down. And it doesn't take too much strength for me, but it's a matter of having the exact alignment and angle. And that is a matter of sensitivity. It's just like if you're juggling or if you're learning to balance, like circus performers do plates or something, you have to refine that skill.